All right. Well, hello. Today we
Hello.
are joined by by the artist Jeanie Tomanek, whose art is featured on the cover of Content by Design's Paper Birds and She Too, Four Voices and Almost Harmony, the anniversary version. Jeanie is known as a mystic artist who enjoys telling ancient stories and exploring feminine archetypes of myths, folklores, and fairy tales. A self taught artist, Jeanie began her full time career at the age of 50, which she calls her second act, which I
Yep.
absolutely love.
Well, thank you.
Her art is held in many private and public collections throughout the United States, Europe, and Australia. Welcome, Jeanie.
Hey, how are you? So, like I said, so nice to meet you finally face to face.
Yeah, it's
We've
good to meet you
corresponded
too.
and I've enjoyed that and working with you for the covers of the book. So yeah, it's great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, like we said here, it's Content by Design. We're celebrating the publication of Paper Birds, as well as the anniversary edition of She Too, Four Voices and Almost Harmony, both which were co-written by myself, Rosemary Neeson Wade, Helen Patrice, and Lee D.C. Spencer. Um, I'm also the publisher, so I'm kind of got two hats on here.
You're wearing many hats today.
Along with my wife and business partner, Kristen Hatch. At Content by Design, we knew early on that we wanted to create a cover that spoke to the collaborative nature of the poems in these collections. So when I discovered your work on
hmm
Instagram, I immediately knew it would be a perfect fit. So thank you.
It really seems to be. I mean, I've just got my hard copy of the book, and oh, I'm really enjoying the voices. And I can see where that is. I mean, it's as if I did make it for you. I mean, because you all are on different continents and you've shared over the years and come back together and sending these paper birds back and forth in the form of your poetry. And so, yeah, I would have to agree. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah. I admit I got on Instagram and just started scrolling, and I knew that I would find the piece. I knew it would talk to me. And when I found No Woman is an Island,
Right.
I was I was hooked. I was like, this is it. I know this is
Gotcha.
it. I
I
don't need to look
gotcha.
anymore. And I read it by my other poets, and they all agreed. Thought probably it would be helpful to actually show the art.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
love the design, what you did with the torn paper. Your cover designer did an excellent job, I think, incorporating that with the work.
Thank you. I think so too. I think Allison Pang is the woman who did that
Okay.
for us, and and she did a fantastic job on the cover and the interior. She put all the little special touches in
Yeah,
there.
I love the little feathers. I love the little feathers. They're great. They're great.
Yeah. So, would you share your inspiration of the two pieces?
I was thinking back on, the timing of that piece, and I mean, women are always my protagonists, but topical issues or personal experience can impact what I choose to focus on. And I realized that in this particular instance, I think it was it was a political thing. It was because the Roe v. Wade had just been overturned, and of course, I had to respond to that as a woman and a somebody who is pro-choice and, feels that our bodies are our own. I mean, that was at least a subtle way for me to say, look, we're all in this together, and we need solidarity and, communication. And so I think that had something to do with No Woman is an Island.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and
I,
powerful. Like that
I,
totally
I,
makes a
I, I
lot of
can't
sense.
help but respond to some of these issues that come up for us as women as a whole. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really, for me, it was the birds. It was just
mhm.
like, you got me.
Somebody pointed out, and I thought it wasn't something that had occurred to me, but um, you don't know whether they're flying, which direction they're flying.
Right.
And that's, it wasn't anything that I intended. It's just I used that kind of little, symbolic shape of the bird. And
Yeah.
in that shape, you really don't know whether the message is incoming, outgoing, you know,
Right.
which way it's traveling. So I thought that was
Yeah.
an interesting
Yeah.
observation.
That is interesting. I guess I always assumed it was they were going from the woman with the cage. We could see the cage, but the other woman could also have a cage.
This is true. This is
And
true. And I love to have something open for interpretation. I hate to be, you know, in your face and just, say, well, this is, I don't want to be too obvious. I just think that that's,
yeah.
not cool.
I also think this medium that you use, it's very abstract in its own way. But
I
there's
actually,
enough detail that
right.
we can make it out, but it's just enough abstract that we can make our own story from your art
hmm
too.
hmm And I like that. I like the ambiguity of it. I actually started out doing strictly abstracts because those were the things that was the kind of work I was really drawn to, especially and admired. And I painted very large abstracts. And at some point in time, and I've been asked this, and I really don't have a good answer of how the women appeared, how those
Hmm.
first iconic, every woman people appeared, but they did. And maybe I just decided that they were a more direct way to tell the story because I began to tell, my own stories and, other women's stories. And since that was my focus, I guess that's why, the figure appeared.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
really
yeah, I love abstract elements and love the, texture. I love to use a palette knife and I've recently switched. Mostly I painted in oils, but now I paint in some slow drying acrylics that can give me the same effects. And I can work a little bit faster. They dry a little bit quickly, more quickly, but not too quickly. And so I'm able to get those nice textures in the abstract, shapes and elements and stuff. So
that's great.
that's a little bit about my process. I love the process I just love handling paint.
Yeah,
It sometimes is just the leader in what I'm going to do. I follow the paint or follow the color, and that can sometimes just lead me into what it is I'm trying to express, whether I know it when I begin or not. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So I think it's probably like when you write a poem, you know, there's
yeah,
something that's grabbed your attention and you may not know exactly why, but you want to explore it further. And so in doing that, in digging and revising and so forth, that's when you hopefully find the truth, or at least something that speaks to you as far as, yes, that's what I wanted to get at. That's authentic for me.
yeah,
So,
yeah. No, I like that. I like your use of the truth, like the essence of what it
mhm,
was, the spirit that
right.
was kind of running through you. I don't
Yeah.
know when I'm writing a poem, I kind of get this feeling that I
hmm
just need to get down, and I
Yes.
usually have to chase it really quickly, otherwise
Yeah.
it goes off.
Right, right. But it's the jumping off point typically. At
Yeah,
least it is for me. You
yeah,
know, that little bright shiny object that, glittered and you reached out and grabbed it and began to explore it. Um, yeah, you get that down quickly, but then the rest of it is the work to, hone it and refine it. Yeah.
yeah. Also, when you're writing a poem, I feel like you kind of have this tone you want to set,
Hmm.
right? And it makes me think that, like you creating art, you use a lot of color to set that tone.
Yes. Yes, I do.
And how do you, when you kind of have that emotion and that feeling
Hmm.
that you're trying to like go for, do you just sit and look at the colors, and does one like speak to you more, and then you're like, oh, I'm going for that?
Sometimes, but sometimes it's just it's a call and response.
Okay.
I may think to myself, oh, I want, a broody kind of, night sky,
Yeah.
and so I'll begin there, and then that tells me, and then I go from there. Well, is it too dark? Do I need some bits of light? Do I need a little hope here? Um, where's my figure going to stand? What is she going to be doing? And then you're working with since I'm self-taught, it's it can it can be a crapshoot how I manage to get from point A to point B, but there's still elements of composition and contrast and interest that you have to incorporate to make it successful. If everything was murky and dark, sometimes you can pull that off, but most of the time you have to have some bright and some light, and yet they have to play off one another in order to lead your eye, through the painting. So yeah, so the colors can be, they might actually have basis in reality, like a dark night sky or green grass, but I like not to make it too simplified. I
Yeah.
like to see some shades. I like to mix colors. I rarely use things right out of the tube.
Yeah. I imagine that you're surprised by what ends up being the truth, or the
Yes,
when you started
yes,
off with the essence
yes.
and then it's
Yeah,
done, and
yeah. I
you're like,
mean, it's
oh, I didn't know we were going there.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've had that feeling when you're writing a poem, as have I. I don't write poems regularly anymore, but I remember that feeling, of finding just that perfect word or that perfect phrase that that encapsulated what you were trying to say. And yes, certainly I can, if I take progress photos, I can see, I was thinking this, when I started this painting, but look where it ended up, is there's nowhere near what I thought I was thinking about, and here again, the process may have led me to other discoveries that I wasn't intending, so yeah.
So they kind
It's
of take a
it's
life.
fun. It's great fun.
That's great. The piece that we use for She Too, Four Voices and Almost
Hmm.
Harmony,
Hmm.
is Sisters of the Storm.
Yes, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
I will try. Was thinking about it because I knew you were going to ask, and so there again, I went back because I'm, pretty prolific with the small ones, and so I have a lot of paintings to look back on for, the last few years, and I wasn't sure when I exactly painted it, and I discovered it was in 21. So it's been, been there for a while. And I think that was about the time we were during the pandemic, and so we were isolated and the storm being, everything we had to deal with. But also it just occurred to me and it's like, duh, I'm one of five sisters. So So, and just, womanhood in general, just being part of that community, uh, and try to, portraying women being in these difficult situations and trying to uh, show them, they were hooked together and helping one another. And I think that's kind of, what I was thinking when I did that.
Yeah. I was purposely looking for one of your pieces with four women on it. When I saw that one, I was like, this one's again perfect. Just the way that the women are in there, and then the one they're like holding her down, or
Yeah,
keeping
right.
her tethered to the
Anchoring her.
ground and to
Yeah,
them,
yes,
which
yes.
was, what I kind of feel like we ended up doing with She Too. She Too was our first attempt at bringing our four voices together, and
Hmm.
um, to bring in that image just brought in so much of what we did, just
Yeah,
that sisterhood and the weathering of the
yeah.
storm that
Oh,
women just
yeah.
do.
It was no small feat for you to do that, I'm sure. And reading through Paper Birds, I love the harmony that you all have managed, with your works, as different as they are, but yet they speak to each other. I really, you really accomplished a beautiful, portrayal of sisterhood and artistic, you know, camaraderie.
Thank you.
Very nice.
But your piece just tied that all together.
I'm
I
glad I'm glad we could do it.
wasn't planning on doing another C2 until I saw your art, and then
I know. Well, that's you know, quite a heavy load for me. I mean, but I'm so glad that it was the inspiration for you, reprising the book.
yeah, yeah, it was definitely you just got us. You know, you just inspired us so much. And like all of the other poets too, when I was like, okay, I found us an artist. What do you think of this one? And like, I'd actually given him a few choices with Paper Birds
Hmm.
because we hadn't titled it yet.
Sure.
Um, but the minute we came up with that title, I was like, okay, I'm looking for birds. Here we go. So,
Well, I'm so glad you found me. Yeah, it's great.
would you like to share one of your poems?
I did look up a couple. It's been a while, since I, like I said, written regularly or had anything published, but I do have one that was published by the Birmingham Poetry Review, and it's not too long, so I think this would be good. It is called Envoy, and here again a bird features. This was back when I was working the regular jobs, but still trying to find that thing that spoke to my heart. I did office jobs and things like that, and of course they were soul killing for me. I just but a necessity. As we do, as we women do. So anyway, I this is about working in an office building, and a young hawk, comes to the window, and it's called Envoy. The hawk came innocent last year to the ledge of my sealed window in the glass tower, where we capture blue in structured planes, make clouds wrap corners, spoke sharp notes I refused to conjugate, and then was gone. Now he returns, full grown, breast feathers flecked rusty, bold male. He hurls himself hard against the shining twin, Yellow talons out, ready to fight his glass rival. Strikes, falls back, and stalks close, cap high, wings bowed, cries out. Angry notes reach me through steel and stone, but clearer than before. I bring my face to the cool mirror, know his eyes, lit with a wild sun that dims the city stars. Fly, he says, fight, he says, come back to our green and brown country. Come home.
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, no, that's where I was at. I was searching for and I grew up in nature and I grew up in the country and wrote about it and it nurtured me. And so when I was trying to find that one thing that was mine, poetry and writing was the first thing, and nature was a subject that I always closely observed. So,
Yeah.
so that's why. Yeah, I was trying to come home.
Yeah. You were trying to come home, and you did.
Yeah, and I
I
did
would say.
eventually.
I
Yeah.
would say you
Yeah,
found
not too
home.
long after that. Yeah, not too long after that, I was able to, get out of the office building and start doing something else. So
That's
it
great.
worked. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Stuff I'm working on now is going to be more abstract again, but still pull out a figure so you can look for that. I'm doing more political things that I have to respond to our current situation, and so those are some things that I'm thinking about right now. Um, so yeah, I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. It's me and the dogs. I don't know if you know, but I had breast cancer in 2023, and that followed right after the death of my husband.
Mm.
So I have had a couple of wild years, but as with anything, difficult that you have to go through, it gives you something else to use as inspiration, really. You go through what you need to get through, and so anyway, yeah,
Well, I
that's
don't
that's
know. It's
that's
a
kind of
pretty
where I'm at.
thing.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. 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 You were mentioning that you too were a caregiver.
Yes,
So that
yes.
was
And
your
you've been
husband.
there. Yes, yes. I've done a number of caregiver paintings. I have one that's is in it lives out in Arizona now, but it was when I was taking care of my elderly parents and my disabled sister,
Mm.
and it's a figure, and she's wearing a beak that, like, ties around her head, and then there's a big nest, and there's three hungry little birds that are with their mouths agape, waiting to be fed. And yeah, I've had a number of roles as caregiver over the years, and it's there again. It's something that feeds you get to express it at least, and you've probably done the same with your work, right?
Yeah. Well, and especially with paper birds. So
Yeah.
a lot of the poems that I have in there is about the caregiving and
I'm, and who are you caregiving, if I may ask?
we've been caregiving for my wife's parents since
Okay.
2016.
Oh, wow.
Um, and her father ended up getting Lewy body dementia.
Mm,
So we learned a lot. Both of her parents kind of
yeah.
had a
That,
neurological thing happen to them. So it's been
mm,
quite the road of learning about the brain,
yes.
and our brains just work and then don't and then do. And just the
Right.
whole ebb and
Right.
flow of all of that. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's been quite the journey. I've learned a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes. I had to,
yeah,
yeah, along those lines, my husband had a stroke in 2008. And, that changed a lot of things. Physically, he, came back real good, but he was not, the mind was not exactly the same afterwards. And so but you recover and you do, the best you can, and it's not easy to see your loved one change, and that's a difficult thing. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
yeah.
Yep. I do.
All these things in life that fuel our arts, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it goes along the lines like with age and stuff too. I mean, here I am. I'm 75, and uh, been doing this for 20 some years now, and yet I couldn't have done what I did without all that experience. Without all the disappointments or the sadness or the grief. I don't think my work would be as rich or be able to touch or speak to people. And I know that sounds a little conceited, but I think it's true. I mean, I think that what I'm able to express is because I've gone through this stuff. It's not, I'm not making pretty pictures. I'm trying to explain it to myself, and hopefully to others that they can read something from my work and carry it with them. I mean, I've had that experience many, many times throughout my career where a particular work felt like it was made for somebody. And that has happened a lot with people who are suffering, with family members and things like that, where they're going through grief, or they're going through difficult times, and they recognize that I am too, in some of the work that I do. So yeah, so it's it's really a pretty cool thing to be able to honor that with our craft. So
Yeah,
I know you do the same.
yeah. We build connections
Yes,
and we make it all worthwhile, I think.
exactly. That's
Yeah,
that's what we're here for.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do believe. I do believe.
Thank you so much for being
Oh,
here and joining me and
oh, it's been my
taking a few
pleasure.
minutes out of your time.
Been my pleasure. Been my pleasure.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye.